Welcome to the Past in Pictures channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. The lone silhouette of a Royal Air Force Lancaster bomber crosses the night sky over Hamburg. Below the British aircraft, the German city lights up with intense flashes during a heavy air raid. The record captures the scale of offensive operations in Europe, highlighting the contrast between darkness overhead and the bright chaos on the ground. The image reflects the technological and strategic intensity of aerial warfare. During a push through a minefield in Tunisia, a soldier carries a donkey on his shoulders to keep the animal from setting off hidden explosives. The protective step aimed to keep the entire unit safe by preventing accidental blasts during the crossing. The record captures a moment of empathy and military practicality amid the harshness of the Second World War. The act reflects the value placed on life and careful logistics in dangerous terrain. In the icy forest setting of Ruka Järvi, a moment of extreme tension unfolds in November 1942. Beneath deep snow, a suspected Soviet agent smiles at a Finnish soldier during a critical development in the regional conflict. The record highlights a psychological contrast in a harsh landscape where borders and loyalties were tested under severe conditions. The scene documents the hard reality faced on Northern European battlefronts. A vertical aerial photograph captures the exact moment of a daytime strike on a fuel storage area at Berghof, France. On August 4, 1944, an Avro Lancaster bomber from Royal Air Force Squadron 514 flies over the Gironde River estuary as heavy hits slam into storage tanks. Thick clouds of dark smoke rise toward the aircraft, showing the success of a strategic mission meant to disrupt the regime's fuel supply. A civil defense volunteer carefully carries a small child through the rubble of a damaged home in the British capital. On July 30, 1944, the rescuer walks down an outdoor stairway surrounded by bricks and twisted metal remains after an air raid. The scene reflects the everyday impact of bombing on civilians and the constant rescue work needed to find survivors in the ruins. From the deck of the United States Coast Guard cutter Spencer, Coast Guard personnel watch a column of water rise after an underwater charge on April 17, 1943. The blast ended the submarine U-175's attempt to break through and strike an Allied convoy in the Atlantic. The record documents the disabling of the opposing vessel, showing constant monitoring of sea lanes to protect and supply forces during the conflict. Allied soldiers gather among the ruins of the Reich Chancellery after the fall of Berlin. In a mocking gesture toward the authoritarian government that had just been defeated, they stand on the famous balcony where speeches were once delivered. The celebratory mood marks the end of hostilities in Europe in 1945. The shattered structure behind them symbolizes the regime's final collapse and the start of a new global political order. Silhouettes of American soldiers framed by the ruins of a huge window look out over the Bavarian Alps around 1945. The group stands in what remains of the living room of the mountain retreat known as the Berghof in Berchtesgaden. Once a symbol of power and isolation for a leader of the regime of the time, the residence shows damage caused by the Allied advance near the conflict's end. The contrast between the natural view and the wrecked structure marks the final fall of an authoritarian government in Central Europe. A British sergeant carefully watches as a captured German officer is brought ashore during Allied operations in Europe. Their exchanged looks highlight the tension between fighters on opposing sides on May 20, 1944, showing the contrast between the stiffness of the captured uniform and the stance of the one in control. Uniforms and insignia underline the hierarchy of a conflict that reshaped borders and power relationships in the 20th century. On September 18, 1944, the intensity of street fighting in Brest is recorded amid rubble and damaged building fronts. With a bright flash in the background, soldiers sprint across a street to set up equipment on positions on the other side. Thick smoke and debris scattered on the ground shaped the scene of movement in a city under heavy pressure, where every step demanded extreme speed in the face of opposing positions. The landing ship USS LSMR 190 unleashes an intense barrage against the shore of Tokishi-shima on March 27, 1945. The United States Navy vessel was part of preparatory action before landings in the Okinawa campaign. Trails of light and smoke over Japanese waters marked the intensified Pacific offensive. Weeks later, on May 4, 1945, the same ship would be damaged and lost after special air attacks. Sitting on an unexploded 16-inch naval shell, Private First Class Raymond Hubert brushes off built-up sand after 3 days of intense operations. The July 4, 1944 record captures a solitary pause in a dry landscape scarred by fighting. As he handles his boot, the Marine embodies physical exhaustion and the rough daily routine of those serving on battlefronts during the conflict. American troops work hard to dig a trench in frozen ground during the Battle of the Ardennes between late 1944 and early 1945. Near a haystack, a support weapon stays set up and ready in case the regime's forces increase pressure. The winter scene captured by John Floria highlights the physical strain and constant defensive preparation needed to hold Allied positions. High-ranking figures show unexpected reactions during the sessions of the International Military Tribunal, held starting on November 20, 1945. On the main bench, central leaders of the regime at the time wear headphones for simultaneous interpretation, shifting between seriousness and moments of casual ease. Under the watch of Allied military guards, they face scrutiny over violations recorded during the global conflict that devastated the continent. Troops from Company F of the 145th Infantry Regiment advance beneath the towering, damaged columns of the post office building in Manila. The February 23, 1945 record captures the 37th Division's strategic push toward the walled city of Intramuros. Amid rubble and artillery scars on classic architecture, soldiers move on foot during the final phase of the Philippines' liberation, facing resistance in one of the Pacific conflict's most contested urban battlegrounds. Troops of the 4th Division carry out a strategic landing under severe conditions on the volcanic sands of an island in Japan. On March 2, 1945, fighters carrying heavy gear leave protected positions and move across open ground as smoke and damage mark the background. The coordinated push aims to secure control of crucial sectors during one of the most demanding episodes in the Pacific. The Pacific waters became the stage for a strategic advance on November 20, 1943. United States Army soldiers landed at Yellow Beach on Butaritari Island, facing resistance from local naval forces. Under thick smoke, the infantry pushed across Makan Atoll during the Gilbert Islands campaign. The direct fighting marked a decisive step toward controlling positions across the ocean during the conflict. Infantry soldiers of the United States First Army move cautiously through the dense crinkletur forest in Belgium. In a severe winter, they walk among snow-covered trees as they prepare for a direct clash with the forces of an authoritarian government. The movement takes place during a major counteroffensive in December 1944, highlighting the harsh weather conditions faced on the European front. Families cross Pariser Platz in 1945, carrying personal belongings in suitcases and improvised bundles as they leave the capital. In the background, the Brandenburg Gate shows heavy bombing damage, with its structure scarred and the quadriga partly visible under a gray sky. The movement of civilians through ruins illustrates the uncertainty and humanitarian crisis that marked the end of the conflict in Europe. An American gunner keeps up his personal hygiene routine during the harsh European winter in the Battle of the Ardennes in 1944. Crouched over the snow, he uses his own steel helmet as an improvised shaving bowl while holding a small mirror in daylight. The scene captured by John Floria reveals a moment of humanity and individual resilience under the extreme conditions faced on the front lines. Soldiers of the 331st Infantry Regiment of the 83rd Division, United States First Army, cross a road under heavy pressure on July 21, 1944. The movement takes place in the hedgerows around the village of Perriers during the Normandy campaign in France. The infantry looks for cover among dense vegetation and armored vehicles as it advances through Europe, trying to break the defensive lines of the regime at the time. In March 1944, an American tank named Lucky Legs II pushes through dense vegetation on Bougainville in the Solomon Islands. Infantry soldiers move carefully under the tank's armor cover, sweeping for opposing forces that slipped into Allied lines the night before. Sunbeams cut through the treetops, lighting the rough ground as the patrol works to restore security. On August 23, 1944, the sky over southern France filled with a large logistics and tactical operation between Nice and Marseille. Thousands of parachutes dropped from C-47 transport planes carried men and essential gear for the Allied advance in the region. The aerial record captures the scale of the jump over French territory, where air coordination turned the countryside into a strategic point of liberation. On August 10, 1944, music served as a brief escape for troops operating in Normandy. On Montéglise Street, a group of American soldiers gathered around a piano to sing, enjoying a shared moment of relaxation. Among them, members of the 2nd Armored Division show their insignia as the instrument, set outdoors, turns a conflict setting into a space of fellowship after arriving in Barrington. Sitting side by side on British soil, Canadian Sergeant J. Dickinson and Sergeant F. Gilkes from Trinidad share an easy smile in 1943. Both wear uniforms and heavy boots as they wait to board a bomber for a mission over Hamburg. Their interaction highlights the common bond among service members from different Allied nations amid the logistics push. American film star Clark Gable smiles as he operates onboard equipment on an aircraft on June 7, 1943. Serving as an instructor in a United States Army air unit, he was photographed at a base somewhere in England. The record captures his shift from Hollywood celebrity to active military service during the Allied effort. Gable took part in field activities to document the crew's routine. On December 11, 1943, Flight Lieutenant R.N. Skipper rests in his quarters in Darwin, Australia, during the official siesta period. Above his bed, a pin-up drawing on the wall reads, "Target for tonight," contrasting with the base's monotony. Responsible for long missions in B-24 bombers, these service members flew only a few raids each month and dealt with intense heat during standby periods. In the intense cold of steep mountains, members of the United States 503rd Parachute Infantry Battalion rest in sleeping bags laid directly on deep snow. The scene records hard training where ski skill and physical endurance in rough terrain were essential. Nearby, gear is kept ready for immediate use, showing the unit's operational discipline. British soldiers take part in tough training to disable traps in the ground, using a wooden box filled with dirt. To mimic the dangerous lack of visibility in the field, they push their arms through openings in a divider and work only by touch. The method trained their hands to find trigger mechanisms under extreme conditions. This instruction was vital to survival and forward movement in high-risk areas. Parisian women surround an Allied soldier with smiles and gestures of affection on August 25, 1944. The emotional moment comes right after the battle for the liberation of Paris, marking the end of years of oppression under the regime of the time. The soldier's uniform contrasts with civilian clothing in a scene that symbolizes local gratitude and relief. The record preserves the spirit of unity and hope that filled the French capital's streets on that historic day. Thousands of American soldiers celebrate aboard a ship approaching the harbor of New York after fighting ends in the Pacific Ocean. The October 1945 record shows the excitement of service members returning home after the global conflict concludes. Smiling and waving, they fill every available space on deck as they see the city skyline that symbolizes the restart of civilian life. An exhausted soldier from George S. Patton's Third Army rests on a lavish bed inside a high-status residence. The refined setting, with classic paintings and ornate furniture, previously belonged to a central figure of the regime of the time. Still in uniform with his weapon nearby, he symbolizes the Allied forces' definitive occupation of enemy territory in 1945. The contrast between wartime exhaustion and the room's luxury signals the end of an era of authoritarian power. Sitting on an unexploded 16-inch naval shell, Private First Class Raymond Hubert brushes off built-up sand after 3 days of intense operations. The July 4, 1944 record captures a solitary pause in a dry landscape scarred by fighting. As he handles his boot, the Marine embodies physical exhaustion and the rough daily routine of those serving on battlefronts during the conflict. American soldiers wait for the decisive moment aboard a landing craft for vehicles and personnel. The group nears Omaha Beach in Normandy under total tension that comes before the invasion of the occupied French coast. Wearing heavy uniforms and camouflage netting on their helmets, they ride rough seas before reaching the regime's defenses. The record captures the quiet anticipation of one of the most famous operations of the conflict. American soldiers packed into a landing craft watch the French coast draw near through a curtain of smoke. The image captures the start of Operation Overlord on the morning of June 6, 1944, when Allied forces began the Normandy invasion to free occupied Europe. Omaha Beach appears in the distance as the troops wait for the metal ramp to drop so they can move onto ground defended by German fortifications. Canadian soldiers of the 3rd Infantry Division land at Juno Beach in the first assault waves on June 6, 1944. Many carry folding bicycles as they push through cold water toward the sand under defensive fire. In the background, French seaside homes witness the Allied arrival in the Berghof sector. The operation marked a decisive step toward freeing the region from the control of the regime at the time. Medical teams and troops from the Commonwealth move across the sand at Sword Beach on June 6, 1944. Amid the chaos of D-Day, medics give first aid to the wounded, while the main force works to secure its initial foothold against the defensive positions of the regime at the time. In the background, the outlines of ships and smoke on the horizon show the scale of the naval operation and the ongoing effort to keep supplies and reinforcements flowing onto French soil. A Sherman tank rolls off a transport ship toward the beaches of Normandy to reinforce the Allied push on French soil. The movement takes place in the first days of July 1944, aimed at the strategic advance on Caen, a major logistics hub held by the forces of the regime at the time. Troops on the deck watch the armored vehicle descend, kicking up smoke as it hits the sand and starts moving. Several landing craft cut through the waters of the English Channel during training exercises in May 1944. The fleet rehearses the approach maneuvers that would be vital to the success of the invasion of mainland Europe weeks later. From the deck of a larger ship, you can see the scale of the Allied naval force, showing the logistics and coordination needed to carry thousands of soldiers toward the French coast at one of the conflict's most decisive moments. Convoys of American military vehicles fill a residential street in England, while civilians keep up their home routines in nearby yards. The scene shows the contrast between everyday local life and the huge logistical buildup that came before the Normandy invasion in 1944. While tanks and jeeps wait for the order to move out, residents hang laundry on the line, highlighting the heavy presence of foreign troops on British soil. Dwight D. Eisenhower and Winston Churchill walk side by side during a military inspection in March 1944. The image records the strategic cooperation between the Supreme Commander of the Allied forces and the British Prime Minister in the crucial months leading up to the invasion of Europe. As they discuss war plans, the leaders show the political and military unity needed to coordinate large-scale operations on the Western Front. Princess Elizabeth walks past a line of soldiers in Brighton, England, during a period of military training. As the future British monarch, she made frequent visits to raise morale and inspect regiments during the years of global conflict. The officers in training hold a rigid stance as she studies the details of the force's readiness to defend the United Kingdom at sea and on land. British soldiers from the 6th Airborne Division pose next to a Horsa-glider shortly before Operation Tonga begins. The writing on the aircraft's fuselage pokes fun at the enemy regime's failed invasion plans against the island of Great Britain years earlier. Geared up for the Normandy landings on June 6, 1944, the paratroopers show confidence in the key role they would play by seizing strategic bridges overnight. The image shows the massive scale of air logistics during the Allied advance in Europe in mid-1944. Scattered across Normandy fields, gliders mark the ground after strategic landings, while transport aircraft cross the sky in tight formation. This coordinated effort enabled the fast movement of troops and heavy supplies beyond enemy lines, securing key positions for success on the continent. Soldiers move carefully through the streets of Carentan, Normandy, during the summer of 1944. The urban scene shows heavy signs of fighting, with rubble piled along sidewalks and damaged storefronts. Their movement reflects the tension of holding ground in a strategic area for the Allied push through France, securing control over vital routes after the coastal landings. William Patrick Stewart Houston was born in the United Kingdom and was related to an influential leader of an authoritarian European government. After trying to build a life in Germany during the 1930s, he chose to move to the United States. When the global conflict began, he asked for special permission to serve in the American Armed Forces. In 1944, he joined the United States Navy and worked as a pharmacist until the end of his service in 1947. During the Berlin Olympic Games on August 15, 1936, the American tourist Carla de Vries slipped past security to try to kiss the leader of the German authoritarian government. The incident happened in the stands while he watched the swimming events. Despite strict security by the German regime, she managed to get close and spark a shocked reaction from the crowd, creating a rare break from protocol. A woman in traditional clothing adjusts small flags on a propaganda poster mounted on a wooden wall. The center shows the face of the main leader of the authoritarian government of the time, seeming to stare directly at her actions. This kind of display was common in public spaces to reinforce the regime's visual presence in daily life. The contrast between the fixed image on paper and the woman's hands captures the era's atmosphere of symbolic surveillance. Two service members from a support unit of the United States Army pose smiling during the Easter holiday in the context of the Second World War. They hold heavy ammunition marked with chalk-written sarcastic messages aimed at the German leader of the time. The photo captures a rare moment of relaxation and high morale among Allied troops on the European front on April 10, 1945, shortly before the conflict ended. German soldiers rest on the front lines during the global conflict of the 1940s. One soldier stands out as he closely studies a magazine featuring a photo of a woman, an item sent through military mail to lift morale in camp. The scene shows the human side and simple longings of men far from home, looking for any link to civilian life and normal routine amid daily wartime conditions. Japanese soldiers line up casually in an open field during the occupation period in China in the late 1930s. The image catches a moment of camaraderie as they rub each other's shoulders, seeking physical relief amid the exhausting routine of military campaigns in Asia. The record humanizes daily life in the imperial ranks, highlighting how small acts of mutual support helped protect group well-being. A German army anti-aircraft weapon shows a set of white marks on its protective shield that count the crew's successes during the Second World War. The painted symbols represent different targets, including aircraft, armored vehicles, and fortified positions, serving as a visual record of the team's performance in action. The photo highlights the common practice of marking victories directly on operational equipment to boost the gunners' morale. A German army soldier poses for an unusual photo in a snowy winter setting. He wears a standard steel helmet and has a protective mask hanging from his neck, but the most striking detail is a small black cat balanced perfectly on his head. The image captures a moment of lightness on European battlefronts, where animals often served as companions and mascots for troops. An American soldier wearing a summer service uniform is caught in a satirical pose in 1944. He uses a comb to imitate the mustache of the leader of an authoritarian European regime while mocking that government's official salute. Using humor to undermine the enemy's image was common among troops to lift morale and make the opposing force's authority look foolish. Soldiers of the European regime of that time pose in the snow beside a bear, an animal that symbolized the opposing nation's resistance during the global conflict. Signs in the background show distances to cities like Berlin and Petersburg, only about 43 miles away, suggesting a push into foreign territory. The scene reflects a symbolic attempt to claim dominance over local strength as battle lines spread across icy, far-off regions. Soldiers from an authoritarian European regime are recorded relaxing as they try to skate on thin ice. One of them slides awkwardly under the gaze of his companions, who watch in a rural setting surrounded by bare trees. With a caption written in German, the image shows their search for entertainment during harsh winters in the military campaigns of the 1940s. In Egypt's harsh desert setting, South African, Australian, and British troops take part in hands-on training at the Western Desert School of Cookery in 1941. Under intense sun, service members learn field cooking methods, using improvised setups in large cans to support logistics. The Western Desert School of Cookery sign marks the place where survival know-how was taught to keep fighters fed in one of the global conflict's toughest environments. A French woman is photographed serving tea to a British soldier during the fighting in Normandy in 1944. While the soldier stays in a tactical position on the ground, the civilian leans in to offer the drink as a gesture of hospitality in a war setting. Although it shows direct contact between locals and the liberating forces, the framing suggests it may have been staged for a historical record or wartime publicity. A fighter from the regime of the time poses irreverently on top of the bust of a Soviet leader during the advance of the conflict on the Eastern Front. The image shows him holding a bottle and an improvised flag, symbolizing temporary control over enemy territory amid thick, low vegetation. The scene reflects ideological rivalry and the tearing down of opposing symbols of power right on the battlefield. Soldiers from the regime of the time pose next to a captured French heavy howitzer of 240 millimeters, about 9.4 inches, in a wooded area. The large artillery piece, identified as Saint-Chamond, is partly covered with camouflage netting to avoid air detection. The record shows war spoils taken during the occupation of France, highlighting the firepower involved and the reuse of enemy equipment during the conflict. A high-ranking officer of the regime of the time looks out over the horizon from the front armor of a Tiger 50 heavy tank. The composition highlights the 88mm, about 3.5-inch, gun extending forward while other troops and support vehicles fill the background in open terrain. The color image emphasizes the tank's imposing wartime engineering and the strict hierarchy maintained during operations. A high-ranking officer of the regime of the time walks smiling through a wide field of daffodils while holding a large bouquet of freshly picked flowers. The black and white image captures him in a pastoral moment of leisure, contrasting the formality of his uniform and cap with the lightness of the natural landscape behind him. It offers a glimpse into rest time and private life among members of the military elite during the conflict. A high official of the regime of the time and his family are photographed picking flowers on a grassy hillside in 1941. The black and white image shows the group spread across the field, calmly enjoying the activity in sunlight. The record emphasizes domestic life and private leisure among central figures of an authoritarian administration, contrasting with their political and military responsibilities during the conflict. An audio operator for the regime of the time handles vinyl records during a radio exhibition in Berlin in 1932. The booth is heavily decorated with the symbols of the authoritarian government, including a large circular emblem made from records and many flags across the counter. A woman watches the technology demonstration while uniformed guards stand watch, showing the early use of media and propaganda to spread ideology before the conflict. United States Marine Corps recruits go through a strict training process at Parris Island in 1944. About 3 of the 7 total weeks focus on handling equipment and practicing marksmanship. In a later phase, the Marines receive advanced field instruction and blade techniques. Physical training includes calisthenics performed with rifles held overhead to build endurance. A civilian walks along a Berlin street on June 3, 1945, and stops in front of a large display installed by the government of the time. The structure shows a foreign leader's image, flanked by hammer and sickle symbols and topped with dark flags. The record captures political transition and an outside military presence in the German capital right after hostilities ended, reflecting the new administrative reality of a city in ruins. An aerial view reveals the scale of urban damage in Berlin after the fighting ended in 1945. In the center, the circular shell of the Fichtestrasse gas holder still stands, surrounded by entire blocks of residential buildings reduced to rubble. The image documents the conflict's broad impact on civilian infrastructure and the capital's architecture, highlighting the post-war rebuilding challenge faced by the population. Soldiers of the 50th Battalion sit on sandbags inside an improvised canvas chapel on Tinian in the Mariana Islands. The group bows their heads in prayer during a communion service held by candlelight on December 24, 1944. The scene portrays a moment of spirituality and reflection in the middle of Pacific operations, where fighters sought religious comfort to face uncertainty and the hard demands of the ongoing campaign. Members of a Marine unit pose for a photo in the barren landscape of Iwo Jima. The group, made up of black service members, represents the vital contribution of different parts of the armed forces in one of the Pacific conflict's hardest battlefields. Carrying their gear and weapons, they faced the island's extreme volcanic conditions to secure strategic positions during the Allied advance in 1945.